Today we are talking about the value of creating a community network, and I'm here with Irina from CityDog, who've created an incredible relationship with their community, with their audience, and hopefully we're going to learn a few lessons from them. I'll also be talking about how #OurStories use their community in their development.
What we have noticed is that in a lot of those countries we're working in, the average age is very young, but the media is primarily reaching older people. So there are some examples, like for instance CityDog, where you have a wider range of audiences, and you're using social media and interactivity and engagement in a very original way and a very encouraging way. So we like to hear some tips and tricks from you.
And Irina, do you want to introduce yourself, your position at CityDog, and maybe give us a little short background on CityDog as well?
Yes, nice to be here. My name is Irina. I'm from Belarus, and I'm a co-founder of a Minsk City digital magazine called CityDog. And the title of the magazine actually explains the nature of what we are trying to do as a media. We created the magazine for ourselves. So for people who were living in the city, young professionals, and who desperately needed a media or medium which would be talking with them rather than to them. We wanted to be an embedded media.
You call your audience your heroes. Is that symbolic, or why do you use that word?
It is. It's both symbolic and a working tool for us, because from the start, the motto was "Our readers, our heroes," which means that so the whole magazine, the editorial policy is based on the human stories, and we wanted to feature ordinary people. And these are the people who come from the community, who come from our audience. We don't necessarily feature experts or opinion leaders. We don't feature politicians. This is not what our readers relate to. We feature themselves.
I know for a lot of newsrooms right now, it's a big concern, the creator economy. A lot of people are finding out that they can create their own media and can share their voice via social media, and a lot of publications are concerned about the position of a newsroom in that creator world. How do your journalists find those individual voices and kind of galvanize them to kind of speak to CityDog?
There is a value in what the influencers are doing and what the media are doing. So I don't see it as a competition. I more look at it as a collaboration. With COVID, with shutdown, with all the problems that many of us facing today, we had to be creative of how you stay connected with the community and use this knowledge and benefit from it in this difficult situation. One of the things we did, we actually started traveling more in Belarus and discovering our own country for our readers, with our readers. So first we did our own long-form multimedia, beautifully designed routes with different travel routes around Belarus with a lot of history in it and hints and so far and so forth. But then the next step, we actually started asking popular online bloggers who are traveling inside of Belarus, who already had their audiences, and we invited them to share with us their favorite places, and we ran a whole series with them, and they're super popular. They bring us our audience, and we also bring them our audience, and it's a very nice connection. Somebody said, "Oh, I didn't know about these guys. I really want to go on the tours they're organizing." So and they write this in the comments, and I think it's also very important that you have some portions on your web media or any kind of media where people can communicate through you with each other. And once you create those channels of two-way communication, it actually starts working well for you. And so the next step was we asked our readers, could you please recommend the places we haven't covered yet in those two big series of articles? And guess what? We got lots of advices, lots of criticism for whatever we didn't cover or covered wrongly, and we put together an article with their recommendations. These are all little things you can create and think about how to bring your community together, even in the situation when people cannot gather physically for one reason or another.
Oh, spot on. I think the way that Hashtag Our Stories does it, and you touched on this a little bit, is making sure that you're giving the community a value as well, giving them something back. We make sure that they're part of our wider community going forwards. We have our own little community networks on social media, and we also provide mobile journalism training for every person that we work with, which means that then going forwards, they can make their own footage if they want to on all these social media apps that are popular, like TikTok, for example. We give them all of the insider tricks in terms of how to do industry standard footage. And obviously, working with us gives them the opportunity to be fact-checked, to have professional editing done, to have graphics done. We create lenses like this, which help them tell their story as well. And those kind of giving back to the community, empowering them to tell their story in other ways as well in the future, I think can be really, really useful when you're trying to kind of sell the idea of creating a community around your publication. You mentioned kind of how your publication has kind of adapted a little bit in COVID-19, but could you delve into that a little bit more? How has the way that you've communicated with your audience changed over the last few years?
Just before the COVID outbreak, we were planning a very nice project of having offline public meetings with experts and psychologists and different kinds of interesting people with readers, and have like a discussion on certain issue of concern. So it was then we thought that we would record it and then post it and cut it in shorter videos and distribute all over social media. It was a very nice project, which of course fell apart completely with the beginning of COVID. So we had to postpone it a little bit for a few months, but then we actually implemented it in a different form. So we invited this, we focused on psychologists, and the reason why we did that, because the whole society is going through very traumatic experience. And we noticed as a media which is still able to stay in Belarus and report from the ground, that people really needed support, that people needed self-support groups. They had to talk to each other and hear some professional advice, but not everyone has money or possibility to go to a psychotherapist. So we invited those psychotherapists to a popular independent cultural space where we recorded, we actually streamed the video lecture. There was one of our people in this, the video camera, and then the person from CityDog and the lecturer, and then we streamed it. But then we knew that not everyone would have an hour and a half in the evening to watch it live, so we cut it again in shorter video stories. But we also did a text summary of the most important points with links to the sources which were mentioned during the interview. So that's one way how you can go around, and we got a lot of feedback from readers on that. So we couldn't do it as we wanted, but we found a way how we still were able to be helpful to ourselves and to our readers in this difficult time. Another hint is that you really have to monitor what's happening in the communities on social media. What is that people are discussing? What are their needs? You usually can sense it if you pay attention. So it's not like we come up with a topic and then we run to the social media to see what can we find there. It's actually vice versa in most of the times. For us, it's also very important to be interactive. I already mentioned that we still have this traditional comments. It's getting harder because they are being really watched and by the authorities, and both us and most of all, the user can be punished. So we have to really moderate, which is not fun at all. But in addition to that, we have lots of interactive formats. And whatever form it takes, whether it's a quiz, whether it's a survey, whether it's a poll, whether it's on the website or on your Telegram channel or on social media, Instagram actually is a great place now to do these short surveys. Just shoot for it, and you will be amazed how much you will get out of them. So whatever platform or format you choose, this is an additional channel to sense your audience. So you're not only entertain, you're not only engaging with your audience, you also learn. And we are not ashamed of asking our audience questions. And once a year, we try to run a big survey of our readers. We just ask them a bunch of crazy questions online. What's important though, and I think very often it's underestimated, it's important to publish the results, because people want to see what other people said. So when we do a survey on the website, you can, as you answer the questions, at the end you can see how other people answered. But if you are an early bird, you will only see a dozen or 100 of answers. That's usually me. And then I'm very curious, what is the final result when thousands of people actually said something? And it's human nature. People always want to know what other people said or saw, and so on. And so we always summarize and publish the results. And those articles usually pick up as many readers as the surveys themselves.
Do you have any tips or tricks for anybody who perhaps runs a publication where they've never really made an effort to interact with their audience on this level, and see their audience as kind of a community rather than a passive thing?
There is no magic bullet, right? It's really very individual for media. My advice would be to first stop fearing, right? The first thing that stop fearing that you will do something wrong. We live in a digital world. Even if you do something wrong, people will forget about it most likely tomorrow or even faster. So experiment. But before experimenting, think of what would be natural for your platform. Don't just follow the trends. If everybody says you must be on TikTok now, you might be. It might be the place for you, but is it natural for you as a person who is doing it, for your audience? Are they there at all? Or where is your audience? So I would start with thinking of what would be the first natural and safer way of opening up for your audience, for the involvement of the audience. It might be just a poll, it might be something else, but let your audience know that you want to talk to them. So invite for this conversation and then don't drop it. I think another mistake is that you try it once, you don't get the overwhelming response, and you give up and think, okay, well, it's not for us. We are kind of strict traditional media. We are doing news. That's it. Try again. If you are not ready to do it on your main platform, use some other platforms. Use your community on social media. Interact and never give up, and try to have a conversation. Even if your video doesn't get many views or any comments, you can start the comment, you can ask something there, and always reply to what people write to you. So it's time consuming, it's a commitment, but don't be afraid, it will pay off.
Hashtag Our Stories, one of the biggest lessons that you kind of touched on there was the fact that you have to make sure that you have engaged comment sections. So a really, really good tip, like just to start with the conversation, is if you've got a print publication, or if you've got a video out, just opening up the comment section and then putting in a question in the comments, something that is relevant to the story. For example, if we've done a piece on gun violence, we might ask, what do you think can be done about this issue? And then suddenly you'll get tons and tons of responses of people sharing their opinions, sharing their ideas for solutions to this issue that you've kind of introduced. And it starts the conversation, and especially on platforms like Facebook, where a lot of the publications that will be watching this, that's where your audience will lie. it's useful because as soon as your comment sections start going up, especially on video content, Facebook's algorithm prioritizes it. So that's a really key point to stress, that if you're on a platform that allows for comments, sometimes it is useful to open that comment section up and direct the conversation yourself as a really short and smart starting point. And then I can't stress enough how exciting it is to do events with your community eventually, once you've built up that active audience, to have those events, virtual or live, where you are bringing the stories to them and kind of getting their feedback face to face. There's nothing quite like it. And hashtag Our Stories, we do virtual ones as well as live. And it's just an honor to kind of hear people who've been really taken in by a story and want to discuss steps to take it further. And it often leads to more stories, as you said as well. We call it social listening, but it's really, really important to kind of listen to the wants and the desires of your audience, especially if you're targeting young audiences, because it will really steer you into unique stories that a lot of the major media publications are missing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Today. It's been amazing. I've learned so much from you, and I hope everyone watching has too. And CityDog appear in our database. You'll be able to see some of their examples in there. And if you continue on with the module, you'll learn a lot more about how to use community in your work, and also how to kind of use new technology as well as we go on to the next unit.